Hello there, I'm Tricia Goyer, and we're going to be talking about calming angry kids. And this is based off my book by the same name, Calming Angry Kids. So this is our family. There's John and I in the back, and then we have three older biological kids. Corey is in the black hair and the white jacket. Leslie is in the black shirt with the curly hair, and Nathan is in the middle with the black shirt. And then we have three little ones that we adopted. Alyssa's in the black and white dress. Bella is in the middle with the white sweater on, and Casey is the one John's holding. And then we adopted four girls from foster care. And we actually have a bonus daughter too, because their older sister had already aged out of foster care, but she's like one of our kids too. So you can see the four girls with teddy bear, teddy bear, teddy bear, teddy bear are the ones we adopted. And then their older sister, there's a baby on her lap, and now she has two kids. So this is the Goyer family. But the truth is that for many years, we've had a heartbreakingly angry home. Our home has been challenging after we brought in kids from foster care, first the little ones, and then the teen ones, but we're going to be talking about all the things that I have learned about helping kids deal with anger and anxiety. So just to let you know, I'm not a doctor, a psychologist, or a therapist. I'm a mom who has spent countless hours in therapy offices because my kids need help, and I did too. So the bigger goal of calming anger, we all, of course, all want homes that are peaceful and calm without a lot of angry outbursts or mean words that are shouted in the home. But truly, the bigger goal is this: respect for parents and respect for God. We want our kids to know that they have a good relationship with us, a good relationship with God, and they can respect us. If I can't help my child to love, respect, obey, and cherish a relationship with a parent or sibling on earth, how will he or she ever open himself up to an unseen God in heaven? So, first thing, there's going to be a lot of tools that I'm going to give you, but you need to know that overall, you are the answer. Sometimes children need professional help to go from angry to calm, but they always need a parent's help. This is something that we will be able to work with them and help them with like no one else can. So we teach our kids as parents to do many things: to make their beds, brush their teeth, make a sandwich, but we often don't teach them how to deal with their emotions or to handle the pain deep inside. We'll say, stop doing that, or don't act that way. But often we don't train them how to calm themselves or how to maybe not get worked up in the first place. So no matter their age, angry children lack the tools, language, impulse control, and the problem solving to do a better job expressing their feelings. If kids knew how to communicate better, if they knew how to express their feelings, if they knew how to, for example, handle anxiety, then they wouldn't have those explosions. Kids don't like it either. And I think that's one thing that I learned after taking my kids to therapy, is that I don't like it, but the kids don't like it either. They wish they had better ways of explaining themselves. So anger and outbursts really is communication, but we want to teach kids how to communicate in better and healthier ways. So first of all, I'm going to share about Sissy. So that is the name for one of our kids. I don't use their real names when I'm doing these workshops, but let's just talk about Sissy for a minute. So we adopted Sissy when she was 5 years old, and anger was her way to communicate that things were not right in her world or in her heart. And she had been moved around in foster care many times. She had a failed adoption. And I would just see this little kid with these outbursts. And I would think she's just being defiant or she's just acting out. But really, she was explaining that things weren't okay, that she was having a hard time adjusting. A lot had happened in her life. And it took me a while to realize that all her outward acting out was because she was having inward pain that she didn't know how to deal with, even at 5 years old. So again, the truth about MAD, number one, no one likes anger, especially the angry kid. They don't like when they get out of control. They don't like the way they act. They don't like the things they say. And sometimes it seems they do because they keep going to it time and time again, but they don't like it either. And then my kids' anger often brought out my own. So I never thought I was an angry person. I think I'm pretty calm and level-headed. But then once I started dealing with my kids' anger, I found myself getting angry, especially if I saw one child acting out, saying mean things to another child. That's when I really got angry. Number three, kids often get angry because they're afraid of being hurt. And anger is a powerful weapon. It keeps people away. And so many times, if they're afraid of their tender heart getting hurt, they will lash out in anger because it's easier to be angry than it is to be vulnerable. Number four, kids often push us away when what they really want is for us to hold them close. And I know this is hard to believe when you see a child when they're lashing out, but really they want us to draw near. And when I mentioned Sissy a little while ago, she would have huge outbursts where she would be on the floor and kicking and screaming, swinging her arms and legs, hurting herself and others because she was so out of control. And so during those times, I would grab her up and hold her tight. And of course, she did not like that at all. So I would, hold her like a mom would hold an infant and just cradle her to my chest and, hold her arms and try to hold her legs as best I could. She was pretty strong, even for a 5-year-old. And she would fight and fight and fight. But near the end, after 10, 15 minutes of me fighting, then I would just sing and I would pray over her and I would tell her that it's going to be okay. And near the end, even though she was fighting, when she'd finally look up at me, I could see it in her eyes, "Mommy, don't let go, don't let go." And so even though she would fight, she really wanted me to hold close. And as we continued doing that and working in these other areas of helping her to calm, soon that fight, those fits stopped. And now she loves hugs from mom. She loves being close. And it's a good reminder to me that they want us to come near and draw them close, even when they're acting out. Number five, when we feel in danger, we instinctively fight, flight, or freeze. And you might say, okay, your child is different. You adopted kids from foster care, but those acting out, there might be things that they feel like they need to fight or fly, leave against, or freeze because they don't know what to do. So I think even though there's extreme cases, any child has these issues where they feel in danger and they will either fight, flight, or freeze. Fight is exhibiting anger in response to pain or danger. So maybe even something as going to a new person's house that they're unsure of. This might bring fear, or they might worry, or danger, or all the concerns right now about the pandemic. Kids don't know how to handle their fears. We often see this in kicking, screaming, gasping for breath, clenched fists, or throwing items. These are all ways kids fight, and they might be acting out. We think it might be about one thing, but really it is about something else entirely because they don't know what to do with those fears or worries or the responses to pain or danger. Flight is attempting to run away from anything that is causing pain, anger, or overwhelming emotions. And that runaway doesn't always mean running physically, although I have one child that would literally run out the door and down the street. It could be darting eyes, fidgeting, jumping up on a table. One of our kids, anytime she would see a bug, she would jump on the table. And I would always say, "Don't do that, you're going to break the table." But really the response was, I need to save myself from this situation. And she really was in a flight mode. Also running away, often without concern for safety, which is a big problem with flight. And then freeze. We might think that freeze might seem more acceptable because they're not lashing out. One of my kids will go, when she's overwhelmed, she'll shut down, holding one's breath, feeling unable to move, escaping into one's mind. And this is the ones where we see maybe in older teens, we'll hear about someone that maybe tries to attempt suicide. And we'll say, well, we didn't realize that things were so bad, or they're so anxious or so afraid, or other issues are going on because they shut down, they pull into themselves, escape into their mind, which outwardly looks like maybe they're able to control the situation, but inwardly, there's a lot going on. So as we deal with this fight, flight, and freeze, we have to fight too, but we are going to fight for our kids. When it comes to handling these anger issues, it's not us against our kids, which sometimes it feels like that. It's us with our kids against their angry tendencies. All right, so what is making your kids angry? We're going to cover what's making your kids angry, how to help them, and then how to help us stay calm too. So what's making your kids angry? First, life stressors. And there's a lot to be stressed about right now. So much has changed. Going to the grocery store is different. School choices are different. Hanging out with friends, church, sports, so many things are different. So life stressors. Also, there's things that are changing, but also when we pack our kids' schedules, they often don't feel as they're being heard. And I know this might not be an issue right now, but it could be in the future where we have our own agenda and we want our kids to do this and sign up for this, and this is important, and take these classes, and they feel overwhelmed because it's a lot for little kids to take on often adult schedules. So we usually have our own agenda, which is focused on order, schedules, and accomplishments. And kids just want to be kids and play and enjoy life and explore the things that they're interested in. So that is life stressors. Also, impatient or unsympathetic parents, and this I think I bring a lot of stress sometimes into my kids' life. We desire cleanliness and orderliness and kindness at all times. Our standards are often too high. I remember after we adopted 7 kids in about 5 years' time, I would just be so overwhelmed with all the shoes and all the laundry and all the dishes and the mess. And my husband said, "Did you really expect to be able to adopt 7 kids and keep your house perfectly clean?" So yes, when my husband said that, I thought, well, yeah, I guess my standards are way too high. I was expecting too much, especially from kids who often hadn't been raised and taught to do things a certain way. Also, we aren't consistent with our rules or our discipline. Some days we let them have extra screen time. Some days we get mad at them when they take extra screen time. Some days we're relaxed more about bedtime. Other days we're tense about bedtimes. If we are having a hard day, we often take it out on our kids, and we aren't consistent. So the more we're consistent and sympathetic and don't have such high standards, that really can help kids. And then we often have unrealistic expectations. We expect our kids to excel in everything. We don't take time to figure out what's really behind our kids' anger. We jump right to discipline, and then we discipline them instead of trying to help. So kids often don't know how to handle frustration or disappointment. And I have certain kids that if they're disappointed about even small things like losing in a video game, or the book that they want wasn't at the library, and their anger will build and come out. But it's my job to teach how to handle that frustration and disappointment. Also, loss. Anger is one of the stages of grief and can be the easiest emotion to express when a child doesn't want to appear vulnerable. And right now, there is a lot of loss going on for every child. Loss of spending time with friends and maybe sleepovers and going to school and riding the bus and going to the grocery store and going out to eat. All these things are losses, and it is stages of grief. And I know how many times I've talked to my husband about how I'm struggling. I need to remember that my kids are also struggling too. And then number 5, unsafe people or unhealthy relationship. If your child is acting angry or uncomfortable about someone, press in and find out why. And it has been told that it's often the people closest to us that we don't suspect, maybe a family friend, that will hurt our children. So if suddenly a child is acting out where they haven't before, really press in and let the kids know that they can open up to you, and that you will listen and believe them. Okay, learn to see that your child's anger is an attempt to communicate instead of just seeing it as a behavior problem. And just the other day, one of my teens was really acting out at the dinner table. She was kind of saying some rude things to one of her siblings. And when someone asked her, to pass something, she kind of like shoved it their direction. And instead of, saying, you need to stop that, or I'm going to take away your phone or whatever, I just looked at her and said, you seem really angry and anxious today. And she admitted that she hadn't taken some of her meds that help her with her anxiety. And, I said, well, why don't you go take that now? And instead of causing a big problem and disciplining her and taking it away, just by stating that she seemed anxious and angry, first of all, everyone was aware of what was going on. But second of all, we found the answer to the problem, her anxiety meds. And so just think about what is going on in your child's heart instead of just jumping to discipline. Okay, how to help. Sit down with your child and make a list of things in his or her life that are making her anxious or angry. And you often might be surprised about the list. It might be something that we don't even understand at all. And it could be even like a sleepover or something that's fun can bring a lot of anxiety. One of my kids doesn't do well in new situations if she doesn't know what to expect. So even a birthday party at say a trampoline park, if she's never been there before, doesn't know who's going to be there, it'll bring a lot of anxiety. And so the night before, we'll maybe talk to the mom and say, well, who else is going to be there? Is there anyone else my child will know? And then I'll even get online and look up photos of the trampoline park and what we can expect when we get there. And that just helps. Also, what changes would your child like to make? And they're often more intuitive about things. One of the things that I dealt with my kids is because I homeschool in the morning and I am a morning person. I love getting up early, having time to read, drink a cup of tea. My kids get up, I'm ready to jump into homeschool. And my kids were saying, we are so tired. One of my daughters said, can you give us like 45 minutes to an hour to wake up? And for me, I'm like, I wake up, like my eyes are open, I'm ready to go. But that wasn't working. So if they're still struggling to wake up, their brain is foggy, they're having trouble concentrating. And I'm like, you need to get to the table. We need to read these books. We need to do this. That was causing a lot of problems. And so I would start waking them up or have them get up with their alarm clocks an hour before I really wanted to start, which is usually 9:30, which is not super early. But just that, giving them an hour to wake up and eat breakfast and, just kind of chill on the couch for a little bit really made a huge difference. Other things that can lead to anger, learning disabilities. I've had kids that are dyslexic and struggle, and that brought anger because they honestly could not make out the words. Developmental disorders, sensory processing issues. And another thing, one of my kids gets really, really anxious if someone's tapping the pencil. He hears a clicking sound. Just being aware of that makes a difference. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which sometimes we think it's just about hyper kids, but also they can't concentrate. Underlying anxiety, food allergies. And I've talked to many parents who have said that there has been something that's triggered a food allergy that has triggered their kids. And once they figured that out, a lot of anger has ended in their homes. Nutritional or hormonal imbalances. Let me just say, I always say the hardest age of kids is girls ages 12 to 14. All the hormone changes. Sometimes when we have an angry, cranky child, my husband will say, just go chill in your room for a while and we'll slide chocolate under the door. And that really does help. But even for boys, one of my friends who has 4 boys says that she even notices hormone changes in her teen boys, and she'll have them do something physical, go shoot baskets, go chop wood, go run around the block. And that really helps the physical part with boys with the hormones. And then lack of sleep. So many kids don't get enough sleep. They're on electronics late at night or up chatting with friends, and they don't get enough sleep. So really, teenagers should have just as much sleep as toddlers. And that can often bring out a lot of anger because they're like little cranky toddlers in big bodies. And then a lack of order or routine. So kids really thrive on order. Just kind of knowing what's going to happen each day can help a lot. Finally, we're getting to us. Don't escalate with your child. And I think this is one thing when we are working to calm our kids that we need to start with. And then another thing is do acknowledge your child's feelings. So instead of saying, stop doing that, go to your room, you need to apologize, acknowledging is you are angry, or I see that you're anxious. Why are you angry? Or what's going on? And in just acknowledging their feelings lets them know that they can talk to you about it. And I know when someone talks to me, and if I'm angry or upset about something, and they say, "Don't be angry," or "Just calm down," it just makes me angrier. But when someone says, "I see you're angry, what's going on?" then I'll share. And I think that's so true with our kids too. So do meet your child's physical needs: exercise, healthy food, and sleep. Growing children need at least 9 hours of sleep at night, and toddlers and teens need more. And this is a really good thing that I've learned. When kids stay up late, their stress hormones like cortisol kick in, which makes it harder to fall asleep. The problem is that cortisol stays in the system and makes them edgy the next day. It also contributes to depression, anxiety, and weight gain. The famous moodiness of teenagers is partly attributable to late bedtimes, which have become standard practice in our culture. Another thing is don't focus on rules over relationships. I think so many times we're so focused on what we want our kids to do and how we want them to obey that we forget that sometimes they just want to sit down and talk to us and make eye contact and have a conversation and have something fun to do with us instead of us being the ones to always enforce the rules. And I know my husband's much better about, taking my kids places and doing fun stuff. And I'm like, okay, we need to make dinner. We need to do laundry. Has everyone done their chores? And I really have to focus on the relationship aspect. So are we trying to find the root of our child's anger, or are we simply trying to control their behavior? Many angry kids are so consumed with being angry that there's no room for any other emotion, especially love. And so I just encourage you, instead of just trying to control the behavior, really look at what the anger is and how we can try to understand it better. Another thing we need to do is to teach calming skills. So, like I mentioned before, we teach our kids how to brush their teeth, how to make a sandwich, how to make their beds, but we often don't teach them how to calm down. So, here are some things that we can teach. First of all, find a quiet place. If there's a lot going on, doesn't help kids if they're feeling angry or anxious with so much going on. To say, I just encourage my kids, like, why don't you go chill for a while in your room? Or if that may seem like discipline, I'll say, you can even go sit on my bed for a while. Snuggle with my pillow. Number two, a walk around the block for an older child. That, again, getting those, the body moving often helps with anger and dealing with emotions, calming down. Number three, talk to someone you trust. So if they have a sibling maybe, or I have one of my teens has gone over and talked to my neighbor who's a younger, hipper mom than I am. And just talking to someone can help her calm down. Take deep breaths is another way we can teach our kids to take deep breaths to calm down. Draw a picture of their emotions. We have little papers and pens that they can go and tell me how you're feeling inside. And that helps them to process it. Squeezing Play-Doh works. Taking a bath, or if you don't have time for the child to take a bath, even running their hands under warm water. Those are all ways to teach them to calm down. And then also, we need to take our anger before God. I mentioned before about escalating. And the best way we can help our kids is to control ourselves and not escalate with them. So we cannot help our child if we have our own anger, our own disappointment and frustration bottled up inside. Instead, we need to take it before God and ask Him to help us remain calm. And I know, there's many ways I've learned to remain calm. First of all, not following my child when there's an angry episode and I say, go to your room, and they, maybe mouth back at me. I don't know. Maybe you haven't dealt with that, but following, it doesn't work. Just walking the other direction, getting quiet myself, taking those deep breaths, releasing my tense fists, and then praying really makes a big difference. And so when we can control our anger and not escalate with our child, then we go a long way. And one of the therapists told me, I would say, well, when my child's angry, then they'll say really mean things to make me angry. And the therapist said, of course, because when you get angry, suddenly it's the focus is off of them. They can say, Mom, you're being mean. So if we stay calm, then we can keep the focus where it really needs to be. And God can help us with that. So this is just a few highlights. There's so much more that I cover in my book, Calming Angry Kids, Help and Hope for Parents in the Whirlwind. But I hope that just gives you some encouragement and tools that you can use with your kids.